Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day 329. Yes, it is actually 329 TowerGate today. Yesterday I accidentally put 329 when it was supposed to be 328. But fortunately Jeeves caught it and brought it to my attention, so I have now corrected it so that yesterday, Wednesday, was 328. Thursday, today, is TowerGate 329. And it is February the 1st, 2018. Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in. That hopefully will be the toughest part of this video, deciding which TowerGate video it is. It gets a little confusing sometimes just because of the way I do my research and when I have to do it. You know, it's a little confusing. But anyway, let's get to the main topics of the day, shall we? Well, hopefully you all saw the State of the Union speech last night. And so we're all going to have a chance to talk about that and comment on that, about what we thought. So I guess I'll go first. I have to, right? I'll tell you, I think that was the best State of the Union that I have seen since Ronald Reagan's first State of the Union. It was one of the longest State of the Unions I can remember. It was like an hour and 20 minutes. Usually they try to get him in right around an hour. Now that could be maybe because it was probably scripted to be about an hour, but maybe he slowed down, maybe he took a little bit longer for applause lines, maybe he took a little bit longer in the parts of the speech where he recognized guests that he had brought in and things like that. So it was off a little bit, probably a little longer than they had planned, but you know, I was enjoying the whole thing. I never felt at any point like, oh, this is going on too long. Now, watching Barack Obama's State of the Unions, after 10 minutes, I thought they had gone on too long. Because in every single State of the Union speech we got from Obama, every single one, he spent about half the time talking about all this green energy and green energy jobs that were going to be created. Trump did not bring up environmentalism or greenism or anything else even one time last night. That was usually the driving force of every one of Obama's State of the Unions, and it never materialized. There was never any green economy, and most of the companies that he was touting ended up going bankrupt, even though most of them were federally subsidized with billions of dollars, and they still went under. And I remember watching Barack Obama, after like 10 minutes, you know, it would be like you would have to sit back every few minutes and go, wait a minute. What the hell's he saying? I mean, there was never any there. It was just a bunch of platitudes and nonsense. It wasn't, you know, anything you could really lock onto. There was no there. And I just found his speeches to be really hard to listen to and watch. I put myself through it because, you know, I had an interest in it, you know, but no question it was a great State of the Union speech. A lot of Americana, a lot of traditional American vibes going on with it, and that's what he campaigned on. And you know, I mean, he delivers a pretty good speech too. I mean, he's not bad at giving a speech. He's, you know, pretty good at it. And I thought it was a really good speech. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give him a 9.5. The only thing that made me twist in my chair a little bit was when he talked about the compromise to get DACA done, and he said he would be willing to legalize 1.8 million illegals, and that was kind of made me, you know, a little bit, because I guess I just feel like I look at it two ways. On principle, legalizing these 1.8 million, it may be more, but 1.8 million dreamers, you have all these people who've gone through the legal process. Many people still waiting are going through the legal process, have had to go fill out all the paperwork, have had to meet all the qualifications, have had to pay the money, have had to go through all this stuff. And I realize that these people are going to have to go through a process as well. But it just looks like you're putting these people to the head of the line, you're rewarding them, and it's not what he campaigned on, and I understand all that, right? So it's the principled part of me wants to say, I don't like that. I don't like that. I really don't. And he probably doesn't either. But then, on the other hand, I look at the political reality, and I think, okay, he's got to get 60 votes. He doesn't have 60 votes. He's going to have to get some Democrats to come on board. Now, obviously, if he comes out and says, yeah, I want the wall, I want to end chain migration, I want to end all that, and I want full funding for the wall, but I'm not going to do anything for the Dreamers, anything for the DACA people. They're all going to have to be deported. He will not get one single vote. And where will that leave us? That will leave us right where we are, which is where we've been now for 30 years. So the pragmatic part of me that looks at the political reality says, okay, so what is the deal? Well, if the deal is that we do get the border wall completely funded, and we do end chain migration and anchor babies and all these kinds of things, if we get all of that, and then we have to accept allowing these 1.8 million to become legal if they meet the qualifications, then maybe that's our political reality. Because if we say no to doing anything with these people, then we get nothing. So the question is, on a political level, do we want absolutely nothing in the status quo where millions of people continue to come across the border, millions of anchor babies, more chain migration, they continue the lottery system, we still get all that stuff. So I guess the question is, do you want to accept the 1.8 million and then cut it right there and stop the bleeding, stop any more people from coming in the chain migration, end the lottery system, end all these things, and accept the 1.8 million? From a principled point of view, I don't want to go there. But from a political reality of where we are, with the fact that we don't have 60 votes, because we could get it through the House, but we'd never get it through the Senate. So the political reality kind of puts me in pretty much Trump's position, and where I would have to say, okay, if I can get the wall, if I can get rid of chain migration, if I can get rid of the lottery system, do all this, then we can accept over a period of time giving these people a pathway to citizenship. I would probably have to sign that bill if I'm the president and that bill hit my desk and I look at that and I say, if I don't sign it, what do I get? No wall, chain migration continues, the lottery system continues, millions continue to pour across our border, and vote Democrat. I mean, it's a political reality versus principle. And at some point, you have to decide, and that's a position that President Trump is in. He's not in a position to sit back and speculate and argue and this and that and the other thing. That's all what happens before the bill hits his desk. But if the bill hits his desk that funds the wall, that ends chain migration, that ends the lottery system, and allows 1.8 million dreamers to a legal citizenship, a pathway, then I think you have to take that deal. It doesn't mean you have to like it. You know, it's a you know, it will leave a bad taste in my mouth. Let's put it that way. But if I'm the president and that bill hits my desk, I sign it. That's the political reality. And but I wouldn't like it. But that's the reality. We don't have 60 votes. So what do you do? Okay, here's a question for you. Did Bill Priestap cut a deal? Remember, Bill Priestap is the head of counterintelligence, pretty much an equal almost to James Comey. He was Peter Ben Stroken's boss, and he's pretty much under Comey because Comey was the FBI director. So we have we have Bill Priestap, we have his boss, Andrew McCabe, who is his direct boss, the deputy director of the FBI. Andrew McCabe has been caught. His subordinate, number 2 in counterintelligence, Peter Ben Strokenis, has been caught. That puts Priestap right in the middle of the two. The man directly above him and the man directly below him, both caught. But we haven't heard anything about Bill Priestep being reassigned or anything else, or announcing early retirement or anything else. Priestep had to know and approve everything having to do with the FISA violations and the deep state coup, the insurance policy, and every bit of it. Yet, he's staying clean. Why? Priestep worked closely with Silly Sally Yates, and Silly Sally knew everything about the counterintelligence operation. How do we know? She told us. She sat right there in those hearings, I believe it was the Senate hearings, where she basically laid out exactly this whole thing that happened when they got this intelligence, and then they went to the Attorney General, Lynch, and gave her this information. They realized that they had this possible Russia interference in the election. They were getting all this intel, and she talked about being with Bill. Her and Bill Priestep were the ones who were working together. So Bill Priestep and Sally Yates worked together. They were a team. Now, Catherine Herridge of Fox News was reporting last night that Chris Wray viewed the memo on Sunday night. Then Monday morning, he sent one guy from the Justice Department, a senior Justice Department official, and one guy from counterintelligence, a senior counterintelligence officer, over to look at the memo, the FISA memo, Nunes's memo. So who would this counterintelligence guy be? It almost has to be Bill Priestep. Who else would it be? Wouldn't be Peter Benstrokinus. Wouldn't be McCabe. Comey's gone. It almost has to be Priestep. Herridge is also reporting that both read the memo and both have agreed that, quote, they could not find any factual inaccuracies. So Wray sends over what we believe is Priestep, a senior counterintelligence official from the FBI, and also a senior Justice Department official. They read this FISA memo, or this Nunes FISA memo that we're waiting to be released. They read it, and they basically tell Catherine Herridge that they could not find any factual inaccuracies with it. Now, there's been more that's happened since then, and we'll get to that in a moment. Back to Mr. Priestep. So if Priestep is going to give up Comey and try to keep it below he and Sally Yates, because the next step up would be inside the Obama cabinet, the Obama administration. So it looks like to me like there is a coordinated effort to give cover to Priestep, because Priestep and Yates are equals. And if you get Priestep, you get Yates. Or if you get Yates, you get Priestep. If you get those two, you are basically inside the president's cabinet. You are inside the Oval Office. And that's where big, big problems happen. I think that what they're trying to do to limit the damage is to make sure that it goes no higher than Peter Benstrokinus and Andrew McCabe. They're trying to stop it right there and not let it go any higher, because the next step takes you to Priestep and Yates, which puts you basically, they answer directly to the president. That puts you inside his cabinet with Loretta Lynch and Comey. But there's something going on here that Priestep would have known and been a part of every bit of this, but yet he's staying clean. Why is Priestep staying clean? Why are we not getting leaked memos about Sally Yates? Why are we not hearing her name pop up? She and Priestep would have been knowledgeable of everything that was going on. There's no way that any of this was going on without them knowing about it. Priestep would have had to have approved all that, including payments to Christopher Steele or anyone else. And Yates would have had to have known. it's clear that there's an operation underway to cap it and say, okay, we can't say Peter's been stroking us. The texts are too damaging. The evidence that the IG has is too damaging. And Luce Lisa Page is in it with him. And Andrew McCabe is also brought into it, and he has other issues as well that the IG is looking at, which we'll talk about in a moment. So it looks like to me at this point that they have full damage control going on. They know they're going to have to serve up some scalps, but it looks like what they're trying to do is limit the liability and try to keep it at this level and let it go no higher. It really can't go any higher, because if it goes to the next step, that is Priestep and Yates. And that puts you directly into the Obama administration, into his cabinet, and Barack Obama himself, because members of his cabinet do not do anything without his knowledge. So I think that what we have here is, and I'm not sure if that means if Bill Priestep has cooperated in the investigation, if he's gone and volunteered information or anything else, or whether they've come to him and said, hey, we know you're guilty as hell. We're going to save your neck. We're going to try to. But you got to play, and you got to play the game with us, because we don't want it to go any higher. If it gets you, it gets Yates. If it gets you and Yates, it gets the president, the former president, Obama, and his cabinet. We have to limit the liability. You, Mr. Priestep, may have to testify and throw McCabe and Ben Strokinus and other people below them under the bus. They may be friends of yours, all well and good. But right now, this is a much larger issue, and if you want to save your skin and those above you, you better play ball. That's what it looks like to me. I could be totally wrong, but that's what it looks like to me. But at some point, we are going to be asking the question, who is the bigger fish? Obama or Hillary? Who is the biggest fish in that pond? The Rotten Reverend or the Long Mac Daddy, Barack Hussein Obama? Who's the biggest fish in that pond? We're going to be finding out. I can assure you that. Joe DeGeneva is reporting that his sources tell him that the Inspector General Horowitz is looking at McCabe's ordering agents to change 302s, essentially fabricating evidence. That's a felony, by the way, during the Clinton email investigation. Now, this will give us more reasons why, perhaps, Wray forced McCabe to resign. If it's true, he will be fired. If the IG comes out and proves that McCabe forced or even asked agents to change 302s, he will be fired and probably arrested. McCabe is going to jail either way. There's no question. He's the top fall guy right now. But this, along with the rest of the IG report, will likely trigger a special prosecutor. That will be the beginning of the end. The IG report will direct the prosecutor where to go. So Horowitz, the custodian, will serve up the scalps that need to be sacrificed to secure the realm, that being the Department of Justice and the FBI. Because remember, that's who Horowitz works for. That's his job, is to protect the integrity of the DOJ and the FBI, not individuals working for them. So, if heads have to be served up to protect the integrity of these organizations, say, hey, the FBI and the DOJ are great, wonderful organizations. We just had a couple of bad apples. Here they are. Have your way with them. That's Horowitz's job, to secure the integrity of the institutions. And if he has to serve up some scalps, by God, he'll do it. But they would like to stop at Ben Strokinus and Page, maybe Orr. They don't want to go to the next level, because that puts them inside the White House. And that's where it all explodes. And they know it. They know it. That's when it gets really ugly. And we're going to get there, by the way. Nothing can be done to stop it. Now, we have learned, of course, I'm sure everyone saw the little clip last night where Trump is leaving the State of the Union address and a Republican congressman asked him about the memo and he says, yes, 100%, we're going to release it. How can we not? The point that Trump's making there is that, yeah, people are going to be mighty alarmed by what they learn in the memo. But if you don't release it now after everybody's anticipating it, that will be even worse. What would be worse than releasing the memo right now would be not releasing the memo. People would be even more upset. You think that they're going to go apeshit when they read it, deprive them of being able to read it, and watch how apeshit they go. It will be much worse. And that's what Trump knows. It's not like this thing's been on the down low. We've been talking about it for 2 or 3 weeks now, that this memo would be coming out. Now they got to release it. So, what's happening now? Well, as Catherine Herridge reported late Sunday night, or Monday morning, Wray sent over a couple guys, one from Department of Justice, one from Counter Intel, to look at the document, to look at the FISA memo. And they said, hey, there's nothing in here that's inaccurate. But then, this morning, Wednesday morning, they send over 5 more guys from DOJ and FBI. And apparently, they've made some changes. 5 to be exact, as I understand it. So, I don't know what these changes were, but I can assure you that Nunes is not happy that there's been changes made. This is why he didn't want them to look at it. And another reason why he didn't want them to look at it is because he knows exactly what they're going to do. Now that they've seen it, they are going to start leaking it. So what is their plan? And I hope Trump doesn't fall for this. Their plan is this, now that they've seen it. Number 1, to try to get the president not to release it. They know that's not going to work. But that's not the point. The point is to delay it for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Delay it. Why? So that now that they've read the memo, they know what the damaging stuff is, they can now begin to leak bits and pieces of what's in the memo to their favorite journalists at the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, and everywhere else. They can start leaking bits and pieces of it to get it out there to soften the blow. And once they leak it out there, then they can send their people out who work for them, essentially, for the FBI. Send their people out to start debunking it, so that by the time that the memo does come out, they've already leaked quite a few things from it, the most damaging things. They've spun it and they've beat it to death in the media for 2 or 3 days, so that when it's finally released, it has no real value, no shock value, because they've already leaked out the important things and debunked it or spun it or whatever. That's all this is. That's the only reason they wanted to look at that memo. They, just as Nunes said, everything that's in the memo, they know about. It came from them. Their whole purpose of looking at that memo had nothing to do with seeing if it's okay. They know it was going to be released anyway. The only purpose they had at looking at that memo was to know what things they need to start debunking and leaking. And the only reason that they're pretending that they want to stop it knowing they can't is to delay it, to give them time to get these leaks out. And you can bet, this is, by the time you're watching this video on Thursday morning, you will already have probably first 1 or 2 items that's in that memo leaked to probably CNN or the Washington Post or New York Times. They will already have their people who are sitting there right now in some office on the 7th floor writing up the talking points for their surrogates who are going to go out and do the debunking for them. It's a cover-up. It continues to be a cover-up. I certainly hope Trump and the people around him, I'm very upset if he allowed them to make any changes. And I'm sure Nunes is quite upset as well. And if he sees that there's been changes made, I would just about guarantee you that Nunes will find a way to make sure that the original information that he intended to get out will get out, if he has to leak it himself. 2 can play this game. If they're going to play this way, this is how we have to play. As far as no shit Sherlock Christopher Wray, the FBI I'm with her director, the way I look at this guy is he's obviously on the other team. He's playing for the other team. We know that now. He was made FBI director. His job at that point was to go into the FBI, is now head of the FBI, and do his own internal investigation and clean up that mess. To get it out. To say, look, man, this is what happened. It should never have happened. This is bad stuff. Some of these people probably should go to jail. I'll leave that up to the courts. We'll leave it up to the prosecutors. We'll leave it up to the people. That's not my issue. But as FBI director, I have discovered these things. And it's mighty dirty. And I'm mighty embarrassed. But you gave me this job. I came in here. I'm cleaning it up. I'm putting everything out on the table and showing you what happened. It's ugly. It's embarrassing. But we're going to get it out there. It didn't happen under me. I'm here to clean it up. Then I would have said, okay, Christopher No Shit Sherlock Wray, you're a good man. But that's not what he's done. He has participated in the stonewalling and the cock blocking of these committees for 9 months. Done everything he could to participate in the cover-up of the crimes. And these are big crimes. And if you let these guys get away with this, what you're saying is that you can do this kind of stuff, as bad as it is, and you can get away with it. You cannot let them get away with it. Wray should know this, and he does. But now we know where his loyalties are. And they're not with truth. They're not with justice. They're not with the rule of law. They're not with the idea that we have fair elections in this country. And his credibility, as far as I'm concerned, is gone. Christopher No Shit Sherlock Wray, you suck. We know whose team you're on. And I certainly hope, as part of the cover-up, because covering up a crime is a crime. If you know about a crime, and you are obligated to report that crime. If you cover up a crime, if you do not come forward when you have details about a crime, you are also committing a crime, Chris. No shit, Sherlock Wray. And I do hope when we're rounding up the perps, you're rounded up with them. You disgust me, Christopher No Shit Sherlock Wray. So we'll see what these changes are. The memo will come out. And I wouldn't delay it any longer, especially now that we know the game that they're going to play. And I certainly hope Nunes can speak to the president and tell him. I hope he knows, but he's got a lot of things on his mind, a lot of things going on, and he maybe doesn't understand the games these people play. Nunes does. Someone needs to tell the president, guess what, Mr. President? Those little trips over here to read that memo had one purpose only, and that was to get the information in their head so that they can go back to their office, write it all down, come up with the talking points, so they can start leaking, so they can start debunking, so they can damage the document before it even gets released. In which case, release it now. Immediately. 3 o'clock in the morning, doesn't matter. Release it. Get it out. Don't give them time to run their game. That would be my suggestion, Mr. President. Don't get played. After the memo, what happens? Well, as I've told you, this memo is not the end-all. This memo is the beginning of the end, but it's not the end-all. This is just one memo. Jordan, Representative Jordan, Jim Jordan, says there will be more because they still have more to look at. We also have Mr. Goodlatte and his committee and Mr. Grassley and his committee. They're also going to be doing some memo releasing. Then the IG report will come out sometime in March. Then there will be one final report from the 3 committees putting all their stuff together and releasing a final report. This is the beginning. Things are going to be ratcheting up day after day after day after day. After the release of this memo, this thing is going to explode, and that's why I told you to watch very, very carefully. Watch very carefully and be prepared for what's coming. It's going to get very ugly, my friends. Really, really ugly. So after the memo is released, the investigations will intensify. We'll probably release footnotes over the supporting documents for the memo because it will be under attack. Then the Inspector General report in March, which they've already received 1.2 million pages from the IG. Some are already in the hands of Congress, and they're going through it now. More and more names and characters will come out of the woodwork, just as we've been seeing over the past few days. So we've got characters like Peter Ben Strokinus, Luce Lisa Page, Bruce and Nellie, Bill Priestap. We have McCabe, the American Zero. We have the dishonorable James Comey, Papa Galopoulos, remember him? We have the shady smear merchant, Glenn Simpson, and his wife, Mary Jacoby. We have Evelyn Farkanis. Of course, we have Uncle Bob and the Hillary donor posse. Let's see. We have Podesta, of course. We have Robbie Mook and the whole Rotten Reverend 2016 campaign team. We have, of course, Christopher Steele. We have Mr. Shearer now. Then we have, let's see, all these characters. And there'll be many, many more characters who will be coming into the story in the weeks to come. In fact, at any time, I'm expecting the Eggman and the Walrus to show up. That's where this thing is going, man. It's going to blow wide open. And we're just at the tip of the iceberg. The single memo, as it comes out, will be followed by many more. And this thing is headed down the tracks, and nothing can stop it. Well, we keep watching. They keep playing the games, but we'll call them on it. And we'll take them toe-to-toe in this fight, all the way to the bloody end. Now, I would love to know in the comments section what you guys felt about the Trump State of the Union speech. As you know, I have given him a 9.5 out of a possible 10. So I'd be interested in knowing where you guys think the speech ranked, your own personal feelings on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm a 9.5. And if you have any other comments or thoughts on the speech and the behavior of the despicable Democrats, and I want you to know something, millions of people last night, millions of Americans were watching that last night, and they saw the Democrats sit on their hands during times when they should have applauded. They couldn't applaud the flag. They couldn't applaud anything patriotic or anything positive that Trump did. They sat on their hands the whole time. It's going to come back to bite them in the butt. And that little slobbering whack job, Joe Kennedy III, who OD'd on lip balm before going on camera, slobbering and gobbling all over the place. Drooling Joe, if that was their great white hope for 2020, think again. He bombed. You guys have a good night. Thank you so much for tuning in. Goodbye.